All right. Thank you, Russ and Leslie. Thanks for being part of this.
Okay, Patsy, thank you so much for everything and for the introduction. And since you offered tech support, I'm having a lot of spam issues. And so I'll have to get a hold of you after all this and get the support I need.
I'll do my best.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Russ Frankel. Next to me is Leslie Blicker. As you well know, we're co-facilitators of this affinity group of adult education practitioners in Minnesota State, practitioners in this business now of Co-Req coursework. And so I just wanted to greet you and also just ask you, if you would, in chat, to just simply introduce yourself, your role in the organization you represent. We have an exciting day to talk about. We have some updates that you're going to hear about from our conversation with Anthony Miller from the P20 division of Minnesota State. We also have a couple of people here who are going to present about their partnerships in a couple of locations in greater Minnesota. So we're excited about that. And you're going to see Chris Dahlke. His video is up, so you can see him. You're also going to meet, let's see, Jody Greniger, and she's from up north. So we got south and north covered. And unfortunately, Cary Komoto cannot join us today. He's a dean at Lake Superior Community College, and something came up for him that was a higher priority than being here with us today, and he apologizes for not being able to join us. All right, so then we'll go into some open discussion, and then we have our April meeting, a little bit about the next meeting coming up, and we'll just sort of wrap things up at that stage. So we have a nice room of folks. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand this off to Leslie. And Leslie is going to give us that update regarding Co-Req and the status of it at the system level, right? And then what's sort of being handed off to the campuses. So Leslie, you look fantastic. Let's go for it. All right.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure everyone looks fantastic today, right? I'm scrolling to see for those who have your videos on. And even if you don't have your video on, I'm sure you do. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to this lovely sultry winter day in Minnesota. Yeah, you know part of our purpose, or our main purpose really, for holding these affinity group meetings, especially while the state of Minnesota, Minn State, I should say, is working through this Co-Req process, is to at least keep you apprised of what we're learning and who's doing what in the field. So before each affinity group meeting, we do meet with Anthony Miller, who's the system director in their P20 student success unit. So we met with him just a week and a half ago or so, 2 weeks ago. And here's what he told us. I'm not going to backtrack too much to what we said at the October meeting. I realize this might make a little more sense if I go forward a couple slides, because they've developed a multi-year timeframe for their project management purposes. And they're still in phase one. And phase one, as we reported in October, was when the faculty committees and the steering group were meeting to try to do a number of sort of set up parameters, if you will, so that the system as a whole could adopt some common elements for certainly there has to be some customization by each campus. And you'll see, based on my update, they're still in phase one. They haven't quite finished. So forgive my scrolling. I'm going to go back to the slide then. And give me 1 second. And Russ, give me a time check. I want to make sure I'm done in the right amount of time here, because we've got a lot going on. So what happened is the work groups, faculty work groups, English, math, reading, they finished their work to come up with a set of parameters. And they issued those parameters along with a survey to the complete Minnesota state system, to all staff and faculty and leadership. And that feedback was given to them. And I know Matt Dempsey is here. He's on the steering committee. I think it was given to them at the end of fall, or maybe it was over break at the beginning of this semester. Matt, if you know when it was given to them, feel free to put it in the chat. Anyway, so they tweaked it. They took the feedback. They tweaked their parameters to the extent they felt necessary. We don't know the details. We've not been given access to those details of what's in it. We do have an idea of the kinds of parameters, and I'll show you a slide in a minute. And those group recommendations went to the steering committee. And Matt Dempsey is on the steering committee, so hopefully we'll hear from him. We don't know exactly where the process is. It did say that the steering committee forwarded it to the Academic Affairs Council, the next level above the steering committee. And they're going to be talking about it very soon, so we know that much. And what Anthony said is they could send it back to the steering committee for further refinement, but we won't know until they've talked about it. Once it's approved through the steering committee, it goes up to the higher channels, right? The probably the vice chancellor for academic and student affairs. And I'm not sure, I believe it goes up to the chancellor. They had hoped to complete this phase by the end of fall term, but as I previously mentioned, it appears to be before the end of spring. And by the way, at the end of my presentation, I'm going to ask if there are any people on the steering group besides Matt and or the faculty committees to chime in and let me know what we missed. Okay, so hold your questions for now, and then we'll give you a chance. Here's an example of some of the parameters. I did show this slide in fall. Like the Co-Req definition and design, like is it to be instructor-led or as opposed to say lab or self-paced modules? How will the content be mapped to ensure relevant support and skills are addressed? Things like that. A big one is how are the Co-Req courses linked to college level courses? So that there are some obvious pairings going on. A lot of questions about staffing and the rest of the bullets that you see here. What they're not working on, and we spent a little more time at this meeting drilling down into the placement piece, the wraparound supports, professional development. They hadn't gotten that far that we know of. However, we did hear something new about professional development and placement. So let me cover that for a couple minutes. So the question was, how come we're not hearing anything about placement yet? Because, and we told them the Affinity group, every meeting is asking about that. Will there be a floor? How are students, how are the faculty going to manage these students wherever they're at all these different levels? So what he said is the reason that they're not talking about it in the steering committee and through this process is that in 2023, and this was news to us, some of you might know about it, the Minnesota legislature called for a review of the Minnesota state's course placement practices. And he said it was quite broad in scope. It was beyond just how do the dev ed students get tested, and placed, and what is self-placement like? Rather, they're looking at ELL, advising, admission practices, and they're asking the question, what is the impact of all of the current practices on the students? I imagine they want to know, like, are they languishing? What's their success rate, so forth. So Minn State put out an RFP and hired a consulting firm. That firm recently finished. And Anthony said to us, there may be some impact on the Co-Req planning project, basically, on all the work that's being done now. However, if you look at the last bullet on this, they're moving forward still with the Co-Req planning, I guess, and this is my assumption, until or unless other instructions come forth. or recommendations, okay? Really, it would be policy. So no information was provided about what was contained in the report, or, what the future will look like in terms of dealing with the underprepared students. Questions, he said, that, are forthcoming. What is it that will be presented to the legislature? Not only what is in the report, but whoever's doing the report, the chancellor or whoever, what are they going to present to the legislature? What is the legislature going to do with it? Will it become a bill? Will it not become a bill? So those are all questions in the air right now. So that's the placement piece. We are going to have open discussion at the end of our session. If any of you have questions now about this, feel free to put it in the chat. Russ or I can try to field it, but again, make notes now because we're going to have easily 20-25 minutes for open discussion at, towards the end of our 75 minutes. Okay, I showed you this. The update on this is simply that there's obviously some delays. So the phase one, they're hoping for completion by the end of this semester, I would imagine, maybe sooner. And then that would mean phase two, where all those parameters go to the individual colleges and institutions. That's obviously going to be delayed until phase one is complete. And I wouldn't know how to push this back. It's too far in the future, so we'll see what that brings. Okay, I'm gonna take a moment and just look at the chat. Give me a second, not seeing it. Is there anything in the chat that I should be looking at, Russ? Here we go. It finally pulled up.
Not really.
There we go. Okay.
Nothing to speak of really. At this stage, everyone introduced themselves, which was great.
Okay. Yeah, and Matt, I see Matt, I was able to pull up. He said the Academic Affairs Council did receive the recommendations just this week.
I see that. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And Matt, I will call on you when I'm done. I only have a couple more slides here. So then we asked about professional development, and to our surprise, and we were pleased, and we are curious if anyone in this meeting, I don't know if we have any Minn State faculty here today, if anyone has enrolled in this, but it's interesting, it's coming out of the unit that I retired from, and NED was a thing when I was there. It's called the Network for Educational Development. And they are currently offering a Co-Req course, and it's called A Formula for Teaching Math and Co-Requisites. And I'm going to take you there just so you can see what it looks like a little, what's in the description of it. And then Patsy is going to share the link out in the chat. But just briefly, it says this short course is designed for educators seeking to enhance their teaching strategies for math co-req. So it's strictly related to math right now. And it's emphasizing practical tools and resources for designing engaging lessons, basically under a co-req model. It's not talking about partnerships with ABE or adult educators presently, but it is teaching faculty who probably have not dealt with the dev ed population how to teach in a co-req manner. I'm in the process of determining with Minn State who's teaching this, and I found out it's the two ladies who were involved in math pathways all along.
Right.
I'm blanking on their names.
Jana
No.
Anderson. Jana, Jana
Yeah,
Anderson.
I have it in an email from yesterday,
Katie.
but I'll. Are you guessing, Russ, or do you know?
No,
for sure?
I one of them was Katie. I'm trying to think of how you pronounce her last name.
Katie Smaja, I think. Yeah. And then the other one, thanks. It's in the email from yesterday. Yep. Anyway, let's just have a quick look. I mean, this is, I think, an important update for us to know. We keep talking to him about partnerships, by the way, and while the course isn't designed for partnerships, he assures us that he tells us that several, I don't know if many is the right word, but several of the Co-Req offerings are being done in partnership. So we're pleased to hear that. But here's the description, and I already kind of read some of this. It says, by the end of the course, participants will be equipped with knowledge and skills to create impactful learning and so forth. There's audience and compensation, but I think outcomes. Define the purpose and concept of Co-Req courses, highlighting their role in enhancing student success. And I don't know who there is. I'm assuming it means the instructors, and so forth. Most participants are able to complete the course by committing 4 to 6 hours per week, and it's a semester long. We do not know if there will be any future course offerings. I asked them that yesterday, and not the 2 instructors, but the woman who's the program director for NED. She did not know that it would be offered, and I think if it were being offered, she'd already be on it. So they might be waiting till fall to do it again. Okay, that is about the end of my spiel. So
Right,
Matt,
we have about 5 minutes, Leslie, from
yeah,
a time
thanks.
check.
Yep. Yeah. This is what I'm doing. Thanks. I don't know if you can see this, my little clock in front of me.
Good.
So I think I did pretty well. Matt, anything to add that you know of, or does anyone else want to add in terms of the update?
I think you got the high level stuff, Leslie. We finished sort of back in December. The DevEd steering committee took up the recommendations, and so that was voted on. So that's why it ended up at the Academic Affairs Council, and that group, which I chair this year, so know that workings intimately. Typically tries to do a first and a second reading. So we had that first reading this week. And then at the February meeting, a potential vote, or as you noted from Anthony, if there are some concerns or issues that they want clarified, they can turn that around and send it back. The one thing I'll say is, and I assume Anthony would have shared the document with you if it was okay to share that, so I won't do that. But from the AAC perspective, it's a lot of recommendations, but it doesn't have a lot of guidance as to how they would be implemented. I don't, is this something that should be going into a policy document or something else? And so I think AAC or once it gets to the senior leadership in Minn State, they're going to have to figure out how to make this thing work, right? There's a whole bunch of ideas of things to do, but how do we share that out with our campuses and do it across the state? So I think that's kind of an open question. And then maybe the other 2 things to mention real quickly, if you'll indulge me, is you had those open questions. So we did form, or in the process of forming, another work group around those wraparound supports, which I think this group probably will be very interested to see, because I think ABE is going to play a role in those wraparound supports that we have. And then the other open question for us is what to do with our technical programs. We have truck driving and welding and automobile repair. And some of those programs have requirements for students that are below college level, but they're really not developmental in the sense that they're not taking a below college level math class to be able to get to a college level math class. They just want to ensure that our carpenters know the Pythagorean theorem so that they can make things square and that sort of stuff, right? So so they're a little different situation, and exactly how to fit them into this co-requisite model is what they're talking about. So certainly questions raised about the report that went out. We can talk about those. I don't think they have a lot of bearing on what this group is seeing. I honestly think the big thing is going to be that wraparound support.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I do see a comment from Anna Davis. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
And her comment is that there is a new branch of the steering committee that is forming soon to address the unique issues technical colleges have. So that has not been addressed yet in the document that has been sent to AA AASC. And what does that?
The Academic Affairs Steering
Thank you.
Committee.
Thank you.
And Anna, what role are you? I didn't look at all the introductions. Are you with one of the colleges or?
Yep. So I'm at Hennepin Technical College. So obviously this is a matter that's important to me in particular, but so I'm an English faculty person at Hennepin Tech, and I'm
Okay.
on the steering committee through MSCF right now. So yeah, I just echoing what Matt said, there's a branch, there's kind of a subcommittee that's to deal with the technical colleges, and then also one about wraparound support. So that work's going to be happening throughout spring semester. I have a feeling that that technical college work might take a little while, but they're working on forming that group right now. So.
Well, we welcome Minnesota State faculty to our affinity group table. It's always important to hear the voices, especially when we get into discussion of partnership as well. And Russ, we didn't introduce ourselves at the beginning. I know we're at 12:26, so I want to finish this quickly. As long as I'm talking, if anyone's new here, I don't know. I'm Leslie Blicker. I'm working with Russ on this. We're both independent consultants, hired by Atlas this year with, we've been working on this for 4 or 5 years now with funding from various sources. We're independent. We have no official authority to anyone, so everyone is here on a strictly volunteer basis. That's what affinity group means. And we're here to really share out information and let practices emerge so everyone can share with each other. I formerly worked at Minnesota State for 18 years. As I said in the group, it was called the Educational Innovations Group, and I retired 5 years ago. So I know some of you. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Russ, did you want to introduce yourself?
I will do that, Leslie. Thank you. I've just discovered what little authority I have, that my grandchildren actually have more authority than I have. So I'm staying with them in Atlanta at the moment. And I've worked with this, yes, a number of years, originated in Northwestern Minnesota. And so I've got a few years in addition to what Leslie, when we brought Leslie in to go statewide. I worked in community education, adult education programs for 30 years. And then for a dozen years worked for the Minnesota State system with the IT Center of Excellence. So you have some people who sort of have some knowledge of the systems, which is always great. We're going to leap right now into, I'm going to introduce a couple of people to you. We're going to get started with Chris Dahlke. Chris is with Winona Adult Literacy. They're working in partnership with Minnesota State College Southeast in this area of read, write. And so we're going to have Chris join us. And Chris, if you could reveal yourself, that would be great.
Can I interrupt for, I'm going to
Yes.
interrupt for 1 second. If anyone here wishes to come back tomorrow from 10 to 11:15, you'll hear different presenters.
Right.
But we will have recordings as well, so we can always push them out. I'm going to stop sharing, Chris, so that you can share or have the whole screen, okay?
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Okay. Thank you, Chris,
hello.
for coming. Yes.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me again. My name is Chris Dahlke. I'm the Adult Literacy Coordinator for Winona ABE. And like, Russ said, we work with Minnesota State College Southeast in Winona. Southeast has a campus in Red Wing and Winona, so people know that. And there's a different ABE program in Red Wing, but they haven't started up there yet. I guess to start, I'll say that to get this going was fairly easy for us, only because I used to teach at the college, and I actually shared an office with the woman who teaches the college writing class. So I have a long relationship with her, so it was very easy to get in touch with her. And she had heard about the Co-Req model from the Minn State side, so we both came in with a little bit of knowledge, knowing that something that we should be talking about. And we talked and got it set up to start last semester. We finished our first Co-Req semester with college writing, and then there's the Read Write 3. There are a few students in that group. And it was, the first semester was very successful from the student standpoint, I think, and from the program standpoint. There's obviously some difficulties and issues that come up along the way, but first time you try it, that's certainly going to happen. But the teacher from the college was very happy with the results of the assistance that she was able to get in the class. But like I said, there are some issues, or there's some difficulties from the program side, but we just deal with those as we go. We just started last Monday, we just started the second semester of this. And also, just so you know, our program is very small. So, I mean, again, we have 23 students in this class. We had 24 last semester, and those are the biggest classes that I've ever had in any part of our program. I mean, we're very small. So it's great for us. I mean, we get a lot more students and a lot more hours than we used to. But then again, we have more students and we don't have any more staff. So you got to figure out how to juggle everything and get everything done. I guess, I don't know, I guess that's kind of just an overview of what we're doing. Finding enough time for the teacher. My teacher has been somewhat of a difficulty, just because, we're set up only 15 minutes of prep time per hour that they're teaching. And it's very difficult for the teacher to be prepared and to be with the students enough within that. So I'm giving her some more time because they are meeting outside of class. She's tutoring students outside of class, doing small groups and one-on-one tutoring with them. So that certainly gives us more hours, but obviously I need to pay her for that. I guess I don't know if there's something. Yeah, Russ.
Yeah, I can pose a few things for you, Chris. This was the first partnership opportunity in the fall. Is that accurate with the Co-Req sort of format?
Yeah, with the Co-Req format, I mean, we've been involved with Southeast, Minnesota State Southeast for a while, trying to help them with DevEd in a lot of different, formats in the past, whether it was just a straight class that we offered, or we tried to actually have a class on their roster, but those have changed over the course of a number of years. So, but this is the first one with this current Co-Req model. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So could you be a little more specific about how the roles played out? So you've got adult education and their expertise, and then you've got the college faculty and their content sort of knowledge and expertise. Tell us how that interplayed a bit.
Okay. I'll do the best I can with that. Cindy, who is the college writing teacher, and Margaret is my teacher, just so I'll start maybe using names now. Cindy's been really good at really trying to make sure that Margaret is not looked at as like, oh, she's just a little extra teacher or on the side, that they're not like co-teaching completely, but her role is one that, at least from the student's perspective, is of equal importance, I guess. She's not doing grading and all that kind of stuff, but with some of the grammar lessons and so forth, she is doing some of the grammar lessons in class, so that that again, that she's not seen as somebody who only works with these students who have been designated as Read Write 3, or only these students who need the extra help. So she's there for everyone in the class. We don't want to make these students that are in Read Write 3 feel bad because we've put them off to the side and made them look different than the ones who are in the college writing class, or just in the college writing class. And then, as they're doing stuff within small groups or whatever within the classroom, Margaret works with small groups. They'll both go around and work with the small groups. So she has, at least I think from the student's perspective, an equal position within the class, which I think has been very important, so that the students respect her and the students will trust her and go to her to get some help. So that's kind of how it is. I know the course 2 days a week are online on like D2L, I believe. So like that's kind of a difficulty because, you know, we can't count those hours, at least from ABE standpoint. So, you know, there are a few things there, but she meets with a lot of students outside of class, my teacher, Margaret. And so she's set up in the Student Resource Center. She has office hours. So she does work with the students a lot. And like I said, I think it from Cindy's standpoint, that's really helped, I think, in having the students complete the class. I know that she has a much higher completion rate and a much higher passing rate, even though we can't share exact numbers and grades and all that, but she was able to share that she had a higher percentage of folks who passed and completed the course than what before were in the class with her. So does that kind of touch upon what you're hoping, Russ?
That's super helpful. I'm just you had indicated earlier about some issues you encountered. I think the D2L was perhaps one of them. What were some of the others that were kind of lessons learned or influenced a different approach for spring, for instance?
Testing. Testing has been the biggest one because each class is only an hour long. So the teacher has allowed us to come in and do the appraisal during class time, but because all the tests, you know, that the level tests that they take are going to possibly take up to 75 minutes. We have them come in outside of class when they know that they don't have to be somewhere an hour later, so that they're not rushing, that they have enough time. Even though most of them don't take 75 minutes, I don't want to, you know, set it up differently than I would for anybody else. So to schedule all the level test has been difficult. You know, we got it done, but it just takes a lot more time than we expected. Right. To get all the students to take it seriously, that's another one. And that's harder to do the post test, actually. When you have them come in at the end of the semester, when they're getting ready for finals and say, hey, come back in for an extra hour or so and take this test. You know, it's not going to affect your grade in the class, but we really need it, you know, and some students are great. They come in, they do it. They understand that this is, you know, to help with funding so that we can have more support in the class. You know, others, I can't make them care and to take it seriously. So, and also, you know, you do get a lot of students that come in already at a level 6 reading. And so there's not a lot of, well, there really is no way of getting them a level gain necessarily. Unless we are able to, you know, we change some things within ABE to allow people who pass this to get a level gain or whatever. And I know there's been some talk within ABE about trying to figure out a different way of placement so that we might not have to do the pre and the post testing. But I mean, maybe that'll happen in the future. That'd be great. But as far as now, to get serious testing and to get everyone tested, that's probably the biggest challenge that we have.
Right. And Chris, before we go to Jody, which we will in a second, TABE test, CASAS, what's the
CASAS?
CASAS?
We do CASAS goals, Math 2, and the regular reading.
Okay.
Just because I know TABE is even longer than CASAS, so we would be
Right.
having probably even more issues if we were trying to use TABE right now. But
right. All right, Chris. And audience, what I want to just share with you is that hold your questions and your comments after Jody has her remarks. Then we'll open it up and you can ask either of them. Assuming they're still available and with us, you'll be able to get your questions answered or comments in the comment portion of this as well. So Chris, thank you so very much for sharing what's going on in Winona area. It sounds exciting. And with that, I'm going to introduce Jody Greniger. Jody is in the Duluth adult education program. She, as I said earlier, is working with Cary at the administrative level, but she also will let you know who she's working with in the classroom. So Jody, thank you for coming. It's all
Thank
yours.
you for having me. It's nice to
Yeah.
see some familiar names, even without faces.
Right.
It's a disadvantage to not have Cary here today, but being part of adult education, we've had quite a strong partnership here on campus for several years. I am just seeing Angie bop on too. So our manager
come
here
on
in the
in.
district is there. Thanks, Angie, for joining me.
And I'm
also-
here to offer a little bit more support as Cary ducked out. So I'm happy to fill in where I can.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Angie. So I'm going to back up a little bit about our partnership. We are still currently running standalone adult ed courses here on campus. So that's part of our placement conversations that are happening here on campus. We also still have the integrated courses. And so those happen in the 095055 math content and also with read write. So those integrated courses, we're still measuring those outcomes. We do use CASAS testing just to kind of go off on the conversation from Chris. And our testing results are pretty good. Last semester, I was in the math content area and we had started with 22 people, lost 2, and we got a post test from everyone in that course. Okay, so some of those things have just been embedded over time. Post testing a little bit earlier rather than at the end of the semester, those kind of things. Having it be a graded item or a participation item so that it has value is also done great things for us. Backing up a little bit with the co-requisites, Lake Superior College is running 2 co-requisites in statistics and mathematical reasoning. Currently, neither of them are running. They were closed with low enrollment. So I did get a hold of the instructor who I've been working with, and her name is Randy. She did run it twice, great success. What she found was the folks that signed up for the Co-Req really didn't need the Co-Req. They were the students that we all dream of. They wanted the extra time. They could have done just fine without the Co-Req. And they only had 5 people in those sections, one time and 7 the other time. So small sampling. The mathematical reasoning, the courses have always run, the Co-Reqs have not. Being that we're embedded so deeply, I did have 3 near and dear pass-throughs that started with ABE, went to 5.0, and then went to mathematical reasoning. They signed up for that Co-Req, and they were pounding on my door when it was canceled due to enrollment. Like, who's going to help me now? Because they were really looking forward to that connection and communication and the community that they had already built, looking forward to knowing they were going to have that support. Let's see. We have a current faculty on sabbatical, and she's working a lot on placement and how adult education is going to look next semester. I'm in pretty good communications with her. We'll be meeting with her later today. We have another faculty going on sabbatical for next semester, and she'll do 25-26. College algebra and contemporary mathematics will be the next 2 courses that'll have Co-Reqs being designed at that time. That kind of involves mapping out the outcomes and reassigning and figuring out what that's going to look like. It also involves rewriting the mathematical 0950 and 55 essentials outcomes and figuring out where our partnership falls in that. So Russ and Leslie, you did send some questions ahead of time. So to say what my support role is at this time, it's not yet defined with the Co-Reqs. It's looking very promising in mathematical reasoning. I'm not so sure about statistics. We'll have to see where that falls. And then there is the college algebra and contemporary mathematics as well. Talked about the cancellations and completions. Still trying to figure out where we fit in our Co-Reqs, skipping down to your lessons learned and takeaways. I think it's just about being really involved. The Dev Ed committee's a very good connection for an adult education person to be involved with, because obviously that's where the changes are being voiced at this time and maybe some visions for moving forward. Working with the departments themselves, so going to the read write department meetings and going to the math department meetings and just making yourself present and available with options for partnerships. Another step for 25-26 is we are on the agenda. Number 8, meet with adult education to modify their current course offerings to assist with lower place students with dev ed courses going away, quote unquote, going away. So I think we have a pretty good chance of being part of those co-recs at some level.
Yeah, sounds great. So anything to add, Angie?
Yeah, I thought I would just throw in there. Jody, how many years have you been at LSC?
Sarah and I were talking about this today. I'm thinking at 11, and I think she's
Okay.
at 10 and a half, or I'm at 10 and a half at 11. We're going to arm wrestle later.
Yeah.
We're pretty
Well,
close. It's been over 10 years.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I've only been in my position for about 3 years here, and I am grateful every day for Jody and her way of navigating Lake Superior College and building relationships, and the time that she's invested in doing that by attending meetings, meeting with key players, decision makers, instructors. And with her, I think that all comes from a great big heart for students and wanting to do what's best for them. But I would just kind of second what Jody said, that a successful relationship between a college and an ABE is all about that relationship building, building that trust between the two of them, and seeing really what we are able to offer to lift students up. So I just applaud all the work that Jody's done there for 11 years to do that. That's landed us in this place where we do have a really positive and solid relationship. And while I feel like we're a bit slow in getting the Co-Req model off the ground, I am confident that we'll be part of that model as it happens.
So quick question for you, Angie, since you're a regional transitions coordinator, is part of the work plan where we have this extra funding, has some of that gone toward this experience, or is it not part of the work plan?
Yeah, we have not used regional transitions funds toward any Co-Req yet. I think I feel like the ball is in the college's court right now.
Right.
And I don't feel that they have the model developed enough for us to come in yet.
Right.
And so that's certainly a possibility in the future.
Got it. Got it. That's helpful. All right. So Jody, talk about some issues and challenges that you encountered. I know you've been there 10 years, 11 years. Sounds as if, you figured out a variety of things, like how do you do that post-testing and make it, beneficial for the students and for the program. So you've worked on some of those things with your partner to blend them in. Was there anything else that came up this time around that got your concern, that kind of is a concern for you, or is it proceeding kind of as usual?
I love this question. It's always been about trying to get people into the right seats. And so as placement became a little bit cloudy and a little bit not as defined, is a great situation for learners to self-assess and place and kind of that academic freedom. But with our placements, I think that's been really hard. Like if I get someone that could very well be successful in mathematical reasoning, and they haven't even placed themselves into 5.0, it's a conversation that we've been having more and more one-on-one with learners. We have a new TLC tutor that's actually instructing classes for the 5.0 level, and we've done something for Student Success Day where we can come in and just have conversations instead of a test to tell you who you are and what class you're going to be most successful at. So using the CASAS test too, it's nice to look at the adult ed classes, the 5.0 classes, and then even up and see what levels we're finding. I know Chris mentioned you're getting 6s. I don't see 6s. So, just to have some of that measure and placement, I think that's been clunky for us. Communication with our partnerships too, making sure advising is on the same page. As you have faculty turn around and you have advisors, we're all new on that end of the building, and it's just, I got to get back down there because there's 3 new advisors. They don't know Jody. They don't know adult education. They haven't met Angie. And it's a continual, you have to get out and you have to face see people. And Leslie, you said, I saw the chat about how do you make yourself available? It's even if you've been doing it for 10 years, you don't stop doing it. You're still reaching out. When you guys having a department meeting, do I need to sit in, and is there something that I can offer? Getting out to Trio, getting down to the different offices and just seeing people. Have your materials down in the library and the learning center.
Yeah, that's great.
I know you said to save the questions for the end. My question was more about, but I think Angie answered it. When you say you're making yourself available for recommendations, I wanted to know to what level they're listening, incorporating your suggestions, taking it seriously, that kind of thing. I think you have quite a bit of respect. I think Angie might have answered that question, but they're taking in what you have to offer as importantly as their own peers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, Jody. And that's what we strive for here, right? And I think what I hear in this is you got to be in for the long haul, right? I mean, it starts with some, kind of more preliminary things, as Chris indicated. We haven't really gotten to some deep integration work yet, but there's the promise of that. And the promise of that is through time, right? Coming back to the table, working on those difficulties and challenges together, and sort of making a determination about how you're going to share in the solution or the resolution of, some of those difficulties that students might be having. All right, so we have 10 minutes that we've allocated. I think if I could take a look at this. Yes, so we have open discussion now. No, we're going to have you actually respond to our two presenters at this stage. If you could sort of, if any of you have questions or comments for Chris and Jody, please just come online, come on board if you can personally. That would be best. If not, drop a message in chat.
Let me do this, Russ, because I think we're combining a couple things. Yeah, this is the debrief of the presenters, and then we're going to move directly into open conversation about what all, I have a slide, basically any reactions to the whole meeting. If you're also working in Co-Req and want to share, please jump in, those kinds of things. But why don't we allocate the first at least 5 minutes for Q&A for the presenters?
That sounds great. Matt, you've come on screen.
Yeah, so I don't know enough about ABE, so I was kind of intrigued because we talk a lot about doing some of these co-requisites in a hybrid model and even in a fully online model. And Chris, you mentioned something about there's issues with how your time is compensated, and did I understand things right? If it's not face-to-face, it kind of doesn't count?
Yeah. Unless it's on like a state approved platform from the Department of Education, ABE office, which D2L and other things are not. So like, I know in the past, when they've met four days a week in person for at least an hour, that certainly would get a lot closer to reaching our goal for post testing. But it just makes it better for the students. I'm assuming that, when you have the D2L and you have that option. So that's all it is. It's not that big of a deal yet, because our funding, part of our funding is based upon how much seat time a student is in our program. So that's just a little bit of it. But it's not a huge issue.
But as we're forming this group now that's going to talk about wraparound supports, and that's going to, knowing the limitations or where things would benefit you folks, it's I think can be helpful to at least keep that in mind.
Thank you.
That's kind of what I was thinking. So the more I know, the better I can talk about that stuff.
Appreciate that completely. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Larry, you're on board here. Do you have something to add, or are you just one looks sharp.
Right, what Matt was saying, and that it's a great area as we may have to go to the legislator on a few things. That could be somewhere we could loosen up and provide some support across from us to them.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. Any other comments or questions for Jody and Chris? Well, hearing none, I just let's thank them. Let's thank them for coming today and applaud their efforts. Thank you for sharing, kind of the evolution of where you're at. And we expect that we'll hear more from you as time marches on. So thank you so much for attending today. You're welcome, of course, to stick around, and I know you're members of this group, so feel free to stick around and hear the rest of what's going on in the discussion. Okay, so now is our chance to just hear from our audience about where you're at with things, because we have folks that have been on faculty groups. We have those of you that are sort of embarking upon some type of work in this Co-Req area on campus. So if you could just kind of light up the screen and maybe raise your hand, and then I can call on you, or just come on to the screen with visually, and I'll know that you're wanting to comment. That would be great. And if you don't do that, I'll call on you. You can count on that. So, Laura, you've been front and center. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the group about what's happening at Inver Hills Community College?
No, I don't have much to share. I just appreciate everybody, the presentation today, as we continue to kind of struggle with making some partnerships at our school. So always glad to hear success stories.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. All right, Yan May from Century College. Yan May, there you are. Good to see you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you. I want to share what I want to share is that we did work really hard on the steering committee and also the work group. But I feel that faculty voices and opinions were not really respected, especially at the higher level. Some of the faculty voices, I would say, especially the ones who are advocating for standalone support still as an option for the most underprepared students.
Mm-hmm.
So given what has been happening nationally and locally, I think it is really a very good time for us to think about what diversity truly means, how to help our students, how to help them not only to have access, but go beyond just having the access, but without the hand-holding support. So that is something I've been really thinking very hard about. Like this year, my 2 co-requisite classes, the Dev Ed part, some of the students are really struggling. And some of the college level students, because of placement, they should not have been in the college level, but they are. They're struggling as well. So with the diverse, wide-ranging academic skills community college instructors have in their classroom, it is really, really challenging at this time. So, but anyways, those are my thoughts I would like to share. Another idea I want to share is that I know this is a wonderful forum and platform, but also I want to encourage everybody to think about the possibility of attending the next Minnesota Association of Developmental Education, which is Minn conference in September. We have been having it in September. If you are interested in collaborating with us, putting together presentations or bring your resources there, please contact me. This will be another great opportunity for people to really sit down for a day, 1.5 days to think about how to best help our students and help our community as well. Thank you.
So Yan-Mei, what's the typical time frame for them seeking proposals? Or when does that usually happen?
That usually happens in the summer, but we're trying to develop the theme of this year's conference. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please let us know. Contact me, and I will share the information with the Minn board.
Does the conference move around, or is it in typical location?
Over the past 2 years, it has been at Kinkley, the Grand Casino. But if we have another location who can host us, ideally with a big discount, that would be wonderful. So because we don't have any funding from anywhere at this point. So I would really appreciate it, Leslie and Russell, if you can help us with funding, with more connections, so that we can bring people together.
Sure, I would love to talk with you. I'm sure Leslie would too, about this idea of sign up co-proposals for some of these partnerships, so that we can start to demonstrate that there are good outcomes that come from a commitment to these partnerships on behalf of students. So yes, let's speak more. I think our spring meeting, which is in April, is a great time to sort of be able to remind people or to push them in the direction of here's where the proposals typically happen. And so we can talk a little bit more offline about that, which would be great.
Yeah, another thing is that with classroom teachers like me and some of my Tanya and Anna and also Michelle on the steering committee, I saw their names here a little bit. We might have come across as if we were advocating for standalone. That has been some people's misrepresentation of us, saying that we are just sticking to
the past.
Sticking to the past. That has not been our intention. We see so many students with diverse range of experiences and challenges and academic skills. That just doesn't work for the students. And we know that. And we know the students day in and day out, their life situations, their challenges, their children, their work. The world is not perfect for a cookie cutter approach to education. So I talk about this whenever I can, because I have them. They're in my classroom. I see them all the time on Zoom, although I teach online. I have them there. So I just want all of us to think about what can we help those real people, not to just simply come up with a solution to solve a big problem that is multifaceted.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yan-Mei. And we've spoken at length here about what we've described as the student that's relatively close to being successful in a credit-bearing course, in a content course, and how Co-Req is just probably ideal for them. But what about those that are really far off the continuum, right? They're really struggling academically. What is the solution for them, right? So Michelle, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I would. I'm sorry. I just had a student in here, so I've been able to listen, but I've been working with him. What I want to say is really heartfelt in a heartfelt way. Also, as Yan-Mei did, I have students in my classes who are actually reading at a 4th grade level. They have graduated with a 3.5 grade point average from a local high school. Many of our population in Rochester have graduated from our high schools, and they have immigrated as younger people, like 14, 8 years old, 4 years old, because they came at that age, their conversational English is excellent. And so you wouldn't even know that they had not been born here, right? They come in and they read and they write like a fourth grader or a third grader. They feel embarrassed. They feel frustrated. If they manage to get into a college level class, the college level instructors often think they're just lazy. They're like, this person, they can't write a sentence. And if I know that student, sometimes I can say they can't write a sentence. They really can't. There are holes in their literacy development that have not been attended to. And I don't think adult basic ed is even a place where they can go. I mean, do high school graduates go to adult basic ed? I mean,
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
there's going to have to be a strain for that, because we're open enrollment. So they come here because we're open enrollment and they're using up their whatever financial resources they have for college. They're using them. And I sometimes have to be honest with them and say, one semester is not enough for you. You need more help. You need more development. So you should be somewhere else, you know. So that is our frustration. So again, what Yan May said, that's what we see. And I see that cutoff point, I also see the students who will benefit from a Co-Req, a well-designed Co-Req. So
that's great, Michelle. Thank you. And Julie Dinko, could you just kind of comment about who's eligible for adult education services?
Absolutely. Yes. It's
Yeah.
anyone over the age of 17 who is not enrolled in a K through 12 system is eligible. There's been a lot of overlap with learners that are in college still that have enrolled who still need adult education services. The population that you're describing, the school districts are having difficulty serving that population as well. I know the St. Paul school district does have extended schooling for them, and they had a great program at one time. I don't know if it's still operating, but yeah, definitely. I hear you, and I realize that is a population that is stuck in this gap that's hard to provide services to.
Yep. Yep. And in your what Julie basically said, yes, yeah, you could have a high school diploma and still be eligible for adult education services because of the fact that you have not acquired the essential literacy skills you need to succeed. All right, we have a few more minutes, just a few more minutes. Other comments from folks that are in the space with us today? Don't be bashful. Yes, hi, Anna.
I'm going to share. So Minnesota North is really looking at, you know, these Co-Req classes and all of that. And as we know, a couple of years ago, there was a collaboration of all of the area campuses. So they're not standalones. They all are part of that Minnesota North College umbrella. And thank you, Jody Greniger, that Keith Turner was at LSC, and he now is part of the Minnesota North family. And he reached out to me and got the ball rolling, and we've been talking and all that. And right now I have committed, I go to Ely 1 day a week, and I'm part of their Co-Req classes. And I have to say, they have embraced me from day one. I'm part of English and math. I'm part of their area resource center. They have students coming. The first day of class, instead of going over their information, they had everybody take test. So for the English class that I'm part of, they did the language tape, and for the math, they did the math test. And so I'm thrilled. I don't like the drive to get there. It's a long day, but it's just been really a great partnership.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. Appreciate that.
Can I just ask Tracy, which college are you going to? I missed it.
I'm going to the Minnesota North College Vermilion campus in Ely, Minnesota.
Minnesota North, did they change their name?
Yes, Minnesota North College has Rainy River and International Falls.
Yeah, right. Okay. It was a different name when I was there. So they keep changing the name of the consortium. And then the other question real quickly, you said you're really looking at Co-Req courses, but then when you said you're part of the English and math, are you saying in Co-Req format?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good, we'll get you added to our list in that area. All right, we've got Anna and Randall. And so we'll take a couple of minutes, maybe a minute each, if we could, Anna.
Yeah, at the most, we're at the 5-minute mark. Yeah, we got a couple more things to say. Yeah.
Someone mentioned that, they're working to make connections with ABE. And I guess I'd love it if someone would speak to that, just in terms of when, one college might have a really good connection with a very robust ABE. Is that consistent? No.
It is not.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have a desire for it to be consistent.
Sure.
A bit more, engaged or involved.
But we're not to a point where we could say, oh, we're going to require that, that collaboration or whatever, because it's not consistent enough to say that that's going to be there for them, right?
Well, we have earlier rendition of this work was we created a toolkit.
That's what I want to show.
And so we'll be able to show that to you, Anna, and you can take a look at that because but what happened along the road after we created that was Co-Req showed up. And Co-Req sort of just created a new sort of a new direction, a bit of a new direction because of the systems movement into Co-Req. And so we're much more focused on that. But some of the fundamental things that need to go on with partnerships are identified in the toolkit. So we'll make sure we got that link in the chat and you can pick it up. And
that's great.
That'd be great.
So I'll show, that's what we have for the last few minutes to show you our resources. When we said this is the 5th year of the Affinity group, and there've been iterations even before the Affinity group started, there were some very robust partnerships throughout the state, and that was in DevEd ABE partnership. Now, but not all of them persisted over time, and the same issue, but it's always up to each college to it, there was a legislative move like 8 years ago for all campuses to figure out and it was a roadmap to figure out developmental education, and many formed the partnerships with ABE. But now with the Co-Req kind of hit, some persisted the partnerships and some, like Jody said, and some did not. And it's always only as good as the college and the ABE working together or the faculty who appreciate, and want that ABE partnership. So sometimes it's at the ground level, sometimes it's at the mid-level management. But our work has been helping to foster those partnerships and to explain the value of the ABE college partnership. We also have a document, I might send this, I don't know if it's in our resources here. It's the value of partnering with ABE under a Co-Req model. So we'll make sure that that's available. Anyway, Russ, I sort of cut everyone off here because we've only got 2 minutes. But if I go back to the slides, here we go. Give me a minute.
And while she's doing that, Randall, if you can stick around once we wrap this up, we would love to hear from you.
So these are the resources that we have. We do have what we call a OneNote site just for the Affinity group, where the membership list is posted. It's a closed site. So if you're not on it yet, you just need to send me an email. I think Patsy can put my email address in the chat. And once I add you, you will get an automated email that says, welcome to it. There you can find the historical notes, recordings, everything from prior years and links to the toolkit and so forth. But we also have a public facing website where I just showed you. And thanks to Atlas and MDE funding, to be able to have a presence there. So it's, when I take you back in, is this it? Yeah, I mean, there, if I go back, let me just go back one page here. You can see that we have information about the affinity group there, how to join, how to link up each meeting, when the next meetings are. Publications, this toolkit, I think it's like 80 pages or 100 pages, but what's most interesting about the toolkit is it provides, I think it's 5 case studies of different campuses and ABE offices or regions working together. And we had put out a call throughout the state. We had over 20 people participating in creating the toolkit. And a lot of those same folks are here at the table today, Jody being one of them. So have a look around. I'm going to stop sharing. Well, I'll go back to the slides. I'm going to, there we go. So Russ, if you want to close it out, feel free. I want to thank everyone for being here myself, but go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, this is great. Well, thank you for attending. As Leslie indicated, stay warm. I guess that's not been so difficult of late, which is great to hear. We next meet on April 3rd or 4th. We'll have a similar approach. We'll have a discussion with Anthony Miller prior, so we get an update of where things are at. I think, what I'm hearing today, we've got this sort of evolving. There are some concrete things that are starting to develop in the system, which is great. And so we'll stay in tune with that. That's our purpose, as Leslie mentioned earlier. And so for those of you that need to exit, please do so. Randall, I saw your comment in chat. Is there anything more you would like to comment about? And I will just bid people farewell. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of the conversation today. But Randall, anything that you'd like to say?
Well, yeah, I know the literacy when it comes to reading, that one, and writing for the English requirements is a key component with the higher ed education for ABE. However, I also we're working as a partner with Minneapolis Community College here in the DOC. And with the Associate of Arts program, there's that one math requirement. And we really have been, if you will, piloting or handling students who that is kind of their accommodation issue. It's just getting that math class. And really it comes down to the adult basic education math part of teaching those fundamentals, or reviewing the fundamentals, because it's been years, decades since they've had a math class or been and the college, and for college in the Associate of Arts program, it's good to hear that, because because right now we are working with a statistics class, and we said, okay, we're going to be applying tutoring. We actually have a retired chemistry professor and a retired math professor who also went through the literacy network and got their tutoring certificates, so they could do some one-on-one tutoring, because it really does seem that one-on-one tutoring in math and with a ABE teacher also learn. And to be honest, we have to learn too. Statistics. One of our retired chemistry teachers, he said, when I was in college, this was like a brand new subject. So he was happy and he has a PhD in chemistry. But it's great to see them working together. But I think we're going to have to see more of that if people are going to complete that Associate of Arts degree and complete that math requirement. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
All right. Well, thank you, Randall. And I think, Patsy, we can halt the recording. Once again, thank you so very much for coming today. Stay connected and stay tuned. Bye-bye.